In this video, we're actually going to implement the functionality of our checkpoint making use of Kismet. Now, for just 2 checkpoints, we can simply make it so that whenever we get to the trigger, I turn the first one off and the second one on. But what if we're working on a huge game in which we have 30 different checkpoints? In addition, depending on the path that our player takes, they may skip certain checkpoints altogether. So what we want to do is that whenever our player reaches a new checkpoint, we want to turn whichever one is currently on off, and then turn on the checkpoint, the PlayerStart that's at the checkpoint that we just hit. So the first thing that we'll need to do is we'll need to create a touch event for our trigger, much like we did for the trigger volume, by first selecting it, then going into Kismet, and then right-clicking and creating a new event using trigger 0, touch. Now by default, this touch event will only be activated once, because again, max trigger count is set to 1. Now, if we want to make it so that when we touch a checkpoint every single time it goes back, we can change this to 0. So anytime we go to this area, we will change the spawn point for there. So that's what we'll do for this time. Next, we're going to need to create 2 toggle actions, one to turn things on and the other to turn things off. So to do that, I'm going to right-click and select New Action, Toggle, Toggle. And then I'm just going to Control-C, Control-V to create a copy. Now, after that, underneath the first target, we're going to want to put the named variable of our new spawn object. So I'm going to go into New Variable, Named Variable, and New Spawn. And there we go. The second one, we're going to need to put the PlayerStart that we've created in the last lesson. So I'm going to select the PlayerStart, unclick and click, and then create an object using that. Finally, we're going to need to create a set object action to make the value of our new spawn variable be our new checkpoint. So to do that, I'm going to right-click and select New Action, Set Variable, Object, and then our value is going to be our new PlayerStart, and the target is going to be New Spawn. So when I touch my target, I'm going to turn off the enabled on whatever is my current spawn point. I'm going to turn on the new one that I have, and then I'm going to say that new spawn is that our new player spawn variable. So when we hit the next checkpoint, then it will turn that one off, and then turn ours on. So again, we'll just check and make sure everything works. So I'll go into the game, and when I click here, now when I die, I start back up here. Now, you'll notice that I'm turned this way instead. And that's because the PlayerStart that I've created is facing in this direction. But in reality, I want to be facing the direction that I want to go in next. So I'm going to rotate me over in this direction. We changed the paths, so we need to make sure to build our AI paths. And then, when I go in to play the game again, you'll notice, once again, when I die here, I spawn back here. When I die after touching here, I get spawned back, and I can see where I need to go next. Now, just like we did with the collectibles, we're going to be turning this all into a prefab. So we need to use all that code that we used earlier in our Kismet sequence and put it into a subsequence. This is quite simple to do, even though we didn't make a subsequence earlier. All I need to do is do a marquee selection. And again, that's Control-Alt, select the objects that we want, then right-click, and then create new sequence. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to give it a name of checkpoint, and I'll hit OK. Now, there we go. And with that, we have one checkpoint completely done. In the next video, we're going to learn how to spawn many of them again, diving more into prefabs and also talking a lot more about packages.